The village lay cradled beneath a heavy quilt of snow, each flake a whispered secret drifting silently to the frozen earth. The cold pressed deep into the bones of those who dared to move through its stillness, turning breath into mist and footsteps into soft echoes on the white stage. In the heart of this winter hush walked Leora, a girl so slight and quiet that the wind might have swallowed her whole had her dog not padded steadily beside her, a living shadow against the drifting snow. Leora's footsteps were hesitant, almost reverent, as though the world around her was a fragile thing that might shatter with a careless step. Her coat, stitched with care but threadbare at the edges, barely kept the chill at bay. Frost clung to the curl of her dark hair, and her pale cheeks held the faintest blush beneath the pink kiss of the cold. Her eyes, wide and searching, held a softness that invited both curiosity and sorrow, a quiet yearning to be seen. Behind her, Ember's presence was a steady rhythm, a heartbeat in the silence. His paws, broad and sure, pressed the snow with purpose. Thick fur bristled beneath his collar, mottled with gray, a testament to years spent on watch. Though his gait was slow, there was an undeniable strength in every movement, a calm vigilance that seemed to shield the girl more than any warm garment could. The village regarded Leora as one might regard a flickering candle on a dark night, fragile but persistent. Children whispered behind cupped hands. The older ones offered wary glances. There was an unspoken distance between Leora and the rest, a gulf carved by quiet difference and the weight of invisible chains. She walked among them, but not quite with them, as if the very air refused to carry her laughter. School days were a tempest beneath the pale sky. The schoolyard, a frozen square of cracked stone and brittle branches, transformed into a battlefield of whispered cruelties. Merrick and his gang ruled the space with brash voices and cruel grins, their laughter sharp as icicles. They had chosen Leora as their target, the shy girl who spoke in whispers and hid behind Ember's calm form. "Hey, Lightfoot," Merrick jeered one morning, his voice scraping like gravel. "Why don't you run back to your cave before the cold freezes your bones for good?" Leora's lips pressed tight, her gaze fixed on the snow at her feet. The sting of his words was sharper than the winter wind, biting through layers of dignity she struggled to hold together. Ember shifted, a low rumble vibrating in his chest, a warning wrapped in silence. Yet Leora didn't turn. She bore the insult as though it were a bitter winter wind, numbing her until the pain became a dull ache. The gang circled closer, their breath steaming in the icy air. A shove sent Leora stumbling against the rough bark of a tree. Her heart hammered a frantic rhythm, but no cry escaped her lips. Ember's eyes darkened, his body tensing like a coiled spring, ready to protect without a word. The dog's stillness was a tether, holding Leora steady when her world threatened to fracture. The village was not kind to those who walked alone. Whispers followed Leora like shadows, painting her with names meant to wound. Odd. Ghost child. Dog's companion. The judgment was a winter frost that settled deep in the marrow, chilling her spirit in ways colder than the snow. Even as the world around her cracked with cruelty, Ember remained a steady flame, warming the cold spaces in her heart. One afternoon, as the sky bruised to the purple gray of dusk, Leora sat on the worn steps outside the schoolhouse. Her breath wove fragile patterns in the air. Ember lay curled at her feet, his steady presence a balm. The laughter of the bullies drifted away on the wind, but the silence that followed was heavier still. Her fingers trembled as she reached out, tracing the roughness of Ember's fur, a small act of courage in a world that often forgot her name. From the edge of the yard, Elsa watched. She was a quiet soul too, but where Leora shrank, Elsa reached out. Without a word, she crossed the snow-covered distance and settled beside Leora. The warmth of her hand on Leora's shoulder was a whisper against the cold, a promise that even in the harshest winters, kindness could bloom. "You're not alone," Elsa said softly, her voice a thread weaving through the stillness. It was not a grand declaration, but a gentle tether, enough to hold on to. That evening, the village seemed to hold its breath beneath the star-studded sky. Leora's small home was modest, its windows aglow with the golden light of a flickering hearth. Inside, the quiet tick of a clock marked the slow passage of time. Ember rested near the fire, his eyes half closed but ever watchful. Leora sat beside him, the weight of the day folding into a fragile peace. Her thoughts wandered to the loneliness that wrapped around her like a second skin, to the sting of rejection that no one saw, and to the silent strength she drew from Ember's presence. The dog was more than a guardian. He was a bridge between the world she feared and the hope she dared to clutch. Outside, the wind sighed through the bare branches, carrying with it the distant murmur of village voices. They spoke of strange children, of dogs with histories unknown, of things better left whispered in the dark. Leora's fingers tightened around Ember's fur, a silent vow passing between them, a quiet rebellion against the cold and cruelty. The night deepened, and with it came a shift, an unspoken promise that the storm would not last forever. Beneath the weight of snow and silence, something stirred in Leora's heart. A fragile bud of resilience, warmed by the loyal fire of a dog who had once faced shadows far darker than those whispered by the village. As sleep claimed her, Leora dreamed not of escape, but of standing tall beneath the endless sky, no longer invisible, no longer afraid. And Ember, always Ember, was there beside her, a steadfast guardian in the cold. The dawn promised nothing, yet held everything, a quiet hope woven into the fabric of winter's breath. And as the village awoke, so too did the first stirrings of a story that would no longer be whispered in shadows, but spoken with the steady voice of truth. The winter sun dipped low behind the skeletal trees, casting long shadows that stretched like silent fingers across the snow-blanketed village. A sharp wind swept through the streets, carrying with it the harsh voices of Merrick and his gang, voices that had grown louder, more threatening with the passing days. Leora's breath hitched as the echoes drew nearer, the weight of their scorn settling like ice on her skin. But beside her, Ember stood steady, a wall of quiet strength amidst the swirling storm of cruelty. The boy Merrick advanced with swagger, his eyes glittering with a reckless bravado that barely masked the tremor beneath. "You think you're tough, hiding behind that mutt?" he spat, voice thick with winter's chill and hardened pride. His words were knives aimed to cut through the fragile armor Leora had built around her heart. Yet something in Ember's gaze, a calm so profound, so rooted in years of silent service, held the boy at bay. Leora felt her pulse slow, the familiar rhythm of fear beginning to ebb, replaced by a fragile thread of resolve. She tightened her grip on Ember's thick fur, drawing from him a courage she had scarcely known she possessed. The dog's ears flicked, nostrils flared, an ancient alertness flickering to life beneath the winter's calm. Merrick faltered, the bravado cracking like thin ice underfoot. The villagers gathered, drawn by the tension that hung heavier than the snowdrifts. Eyes once turned away now focused, hearts held in quiet suspense. Whispers fluttered like ghostly wings. "That dog, that girl." Something's changed. The air brimmed with the unsaid, the fragile hope that perhaps, beneath the shy girl's quiet exterior, lay a spirit unbroken. In that moment, Ember stepped forward, not with bared teeth or snarls, but with the poised dignity of a protector who had once stood on battlefields invisible to most. Memories flickered in the depths of his steady eyes. Darkened alleys where danger lurked like shadows. The unspoken language between man and beast. The weight of lives saved in silence. He was a warrior tempered by time, now devoted wholly to this fragile light beside him. Merrick's lip curled in a snarl, but the fire in Ember's gaze halted his advance. The boy's voice wavered, uncertainty seeping through the cracks of his bluster. Leora, standing taller than she had dared in days, lifted her chin with a grace that surprised even herself. There was no triumphant shout, no fiery declaration, only the quiet dignity of one who had endured, and in doing so, had become something stronger. Elsa, standing a few steps away, let out a soft breath, her eyes shimmering with unspoken joy. The invisible thread that had connected her to Leora now pulsed with new life, a testament to friendship forged in the harshest cold. Around them, the village seemed to shift imperceptibly, the frozen judgment thawing under the warmth of resilience. As Merrick retreated, defeated not by force but by the unyielding presence of quiet courage, Leora's lips curved into a tentative smile. Ember settled at her feet, his body relaxed but ever watchful, a sentinel in the fading light. The snow began to fall again, soft and unrelenting, cloaking the village in a gentle silence that felt more like a promise than an end. Days passed, and with them came subtle transformations. The schoolyard no longer echoed solely with taunts, but with tentative greetings and curious glances. Leora moved through the world with a newfound steadiness, her steps no longer hesitant but deliberate, each one a small act of grace. Ember remained by her side, a steadfast shadow, the steady warmth beneath winter's chill. Neighbors left offerings, a loaf of bread, a knitted scarf, tokens of a community beginning to see her not as the girl to be feared or ignored, but as one who carried a quiet strength worth honoring. The whispered tales that once sought to isolate now began to weave a new story, one of endurance, friendship, and the silent power of loyalty. Late one evening, beneath a sky dusted with stars, Leora and Ember stood at the edge of the village. The cold air shimmered with frost, and the world seemed paused, held in a delicate balance between night and dawn. Ember nuzzled her hand, a gentle reminder that she was never truly alone. Her thoughts wandered to the journey still ahead, a path not marked by loud triumphs, but by small victories won in the silence of the heart. She felt the slow burn of hope rising, a warmth that even the deepest winter could not extinguish. "Walk with me," she whispered, not to Ember, but to the unfolding future, a future shaped by whispered courage and the unspoken bond between a girl and her dog. In the hush of that snowy twilight, the village held its breath, waiting for the next chapter to unfold. And somewhere, carried on the wind's gentle sigh, was the promise that every whispered tale could grow into a song of hope. If this story has touched your heart, linger a while longer with us. Subscribe and join the journey through more whispered tales, where silence speaks louder than words, and courage blooms in the quietest places.